Now I've already eaten the grapes, and here is a strawberry, and I had 4 mandarins. Hey Scott. Say Jeff, New York. We're building up the family. Base Deadhead. Here we go. Hasn't taken that long now. Got Boss Briggs. Alright, we're getting our Patreon supporters. We're getting our GoFundMe. We're getting our mug purchases. We're getting our Americans in general. Well, that was quick. Lovely to see everybody. So I'd like to refer you all, Perry Pilo, I'd like to refer you all to, I don't know, maybe 15 of my videos. How many of them have been seen? I recall speaking about 4D politics. Hello everyone. And they've been watched, what, now 30-something thousand times. And we did explain, excuse me, I'm going to have this strawberry. All the way back to when I only had 18 followers, when I did the first blog with my good friend Al before he became pompous and adopted the pompous voice. I did say this would happen. I didn't say specifically that Mr. James Fields would drive from Ohio down and plow into a group of people. But if anyone particularly remembers, because I've said it so many times, and I came from a country where this exactly happened. Hey, Mr. Kevro. I did explain that, and I even have one of my scopes which is called "The Fake Left is the Womb via which the Fake Right will be born." So, and I've said this, well, see, I don't think today's a sad day. I think today is when most people see this day. Aviator sunglasses, Gab Cruz. So, the reason that many people think it's a sad day today is due to not their fault, but due to not seeing things in 4 dimensions. That's one of the reasons. These mandarins are really good. And I've explained this over and over, so I'm staying very calm, but obviously I really do want to scream, F everyone, F you all, you're also effing stupid, you don't realize what's going on. And but obviously that's not true. Some people realize, some people don't. Many of you here, especially the hardcore supporters, you guys have known how this has been my main theme, right? This has been my main theme. That over 30 or 40 years in the country that my parents had to leave, we had 40 years of terrorist attacks by the fake leftist authoritarian communists and the very small radical minority that was made up of a few different other totalitarianists, which I like to refer as the fake left. Your gabulousness. And I said that would result in the fake right being born, and once they're born, they're not going to give a shit how many times you call them bigot. They'll just shoot you in the head. Now, many of you have heard me say that, and now I'm saying it again, and saying this is exactly now what we're beginning to see. These people have nothing to lose. The James Foleys of the world, who have been underground for a long time. As I said, they've been kept underground probably since about 1945. They have been pushed to the point where they have nothing to lose now. And so what happens in any sort of game theory when one party has nothing to lose? What's going to happen? Well, anything is better. So him facing whatever he's facing is a nothing. So, hey, so that's just to, I guess, reinstate my authority, I guess, as one who's been seeing this coming for a long time. And as I've said many times before, this is not because I'm any smarter, but because I come from a country where this exactly happened. Gab warned us about this. Yeah. These are people who will openly kill. Hey, no worries, all the best. The fake right will openly kill. They have no problem with this. And as I said, how many times have I said that the West has not seen the fake right since 1945? I saw the fake right in Lebanon in 1982 when they were born after 40 years of attacks by the communists against them. And of course, there's that subset of people that don't give a shit and will just murder anyone. And they started murdering communists and any sort of Muslim, good, bad, didn't matter. So it's happening now. We saw a bit of it with Anders Breivik. I think it was in Norway a few years ago, and he wrote his manifesto. And these people are seeing a problem which most people see. They just have a completely different conclusion. And of course, if you're on an island where you think that a tsunami is coming and you're going to die, you're going to do anything you want. What you'll notice is that the fake right is adopting the Antifa tactics. And as I've said before, the fake right will do a much better job. Fake right is a killing machine. That's what happens. It gets pushed. And this is another thing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It gets created by the very people that argue of its existence, or argue for the destruction of its existence. And so there is another 4D irony, which is the birth of the fake right via the continued thriving of the fake left. So we have the authoritarians now battling each other. My prediction is that this will get worse before it gets better. Now, why do I think that's the case? I think that's the case. There are a few telltale signs. One is that you're going to find a significant amount of the country and the propagandist media, propagandist media is going to blame Trump for this. Now, it's very easy to do that. It's very easy to blame. You can blame Trump for anything. You can blame Trump for the sunrise. You can blame him for global warming. You can blame him for the country turning into decadence. So how do you know that's not true? Well, I'd like you to run a hypothetical scenario. Oh, okay. My question is, what happens if Hillary Clinton had won and this situation had happened? Do you think it would be better, the same, or worse? And I think most people hypothesize a solution to that. Now, whatever answer you come to is really going to be consistent with knowing that it's not. You can't blame Trump for this. It's too simple. The other thing I would ask, Adam said the same. Okay. The other thing I would ask is, here's something that I bet you Scott Adams didn't say, which is, what's the fake right? Oh, I've done many scopes on that. They haven't existed since 1945 in the West. They were in Syria in the 1860s and in Lebanon in 1982. So, where are we? Sounds bad. Yeah, they're animals. They're killing machines, and just wait till they get born. They haven't been born yet. Now it's just sort of contractions. You know, when the mother has contractions, but it's not a legitimate going into labor situation. The other thing that, if someone decides they want to blame Trump, and Jim Beam, if someone wants to blame Trump, the other thing you got to ask is, and this is something Scott Adams didn't bring up, which is, if it was Trump, why was there a proposal to remove the statue in the first place under the Trump administration? So that's something that you also need to remember and keep in your arsenal. Keep in your arsenal that if people want to blame Trump, they've also got to blame him for the proposal to remove the statue, right? Because they both happened under supposedly his administration, right? And that, of course, did you miss something on the news? Oh yeah. So I'll be listening to it for a few hours. So that's the next thing. And then on top of that, if you want to get into, thinking about it a little bit more clearly, you've also got to ask yourself, do you think this all began now? Do you think this has nothing to do with the past 30 years or 40 years? If you think it has nothing to do with the last 30 or 40 years, then sure, you can go ahead and blame Trump again. Now, this is why, as I said, I think this will get worse. I think this will get worse because not enough people are seeing what I'm seeing and saying what I'm saying and understanding what I'm saying. Right? If a baby is born, you don't blame the baby because the parents were fucking 9 months earlier. Right? So the demon of authoritarianism had been waiting outside the door of the left wing for quite a while as we gained power in the 90s, and legitimate power, and for good reason. Outside the door of the left wing party is the demon of authoritarianism, which has been waiting to mate with us. And as always, a chunk of our side had been mating and being mated to and by and with and for the demon of authoritarianism. And once that injects itself into the situation, as always, that then creates a baby. And the baby is the fake right. And that fake right has been hibernating within the womb of authoritarian leftism for the last 20 to 30 years. That's really it. So until people see exactly what I just said, so let me just repeat this. Until people see this, Rosemary's Baby. The baby is the beast, that's exactly right. Until people see that the left, right, that my side, that a big chunk of my side that mated with the demon of authoritarianism, right, until they see that that union is what has been slowly giving birth to the descendant of the 1945 fascists. Until they see that, then this will continue. Right? So I'll just be very careful to explain that. I'm not sure if people still really yet understand what I'm saying here. And as you guys know, as a kid, I saw this. I saw people get shot for not being Christian enough. And in the equivalent in America would be white enough. And we saw it because, of course, the guy crashed into white leftists. And that's what started to happen in Lebanon. They started killing the Christians. The Christians started killing the Christians who weren't Christian enough, right? So, yeah, it's going to get worse until people see that. And that's really all I have to say. I'm trying to remain very calm because I feel like I'm talking to, I mean, you guys are a subset, but in general, people don't see this because their brains are unable to see far enough into the fourth dimension on both horizons, right? Once you learn how to think the way I'm thinking and hear what I'm saying, which many of you do, your horizon will expand and you will see that something you do today will actually create the reverse effect. Well, everyone has been brainwashed. If you think, not you personally, if people blame Obama, right, for something, you are creating people who will blame Trump. This is the ultimate message that I've been giving for the past few months to my lovely Western friends. If you blame Obama for something, if you blame Black Lives Matter, if you say the left, right, you are doing exactly what is being used against you now. That is the blowback which some people are not seeing. In fact, most people are not seeing. Right? When you blame the left, you're lumping me into this and you're not realizing that there's a civil war between the liberal and the illiberal left. There is a liberal, thank you. There is a, well, the amount that I've seen, I would hope so. No, because it's outside of our timeline, right? As humans. There is the liberal left, which is right here, and the illiberal left, which is, oh my God, you know, like, I hate white people, even though I'm a white person, right? So you have the liberal versus the illiberal left. The only way that you're going to stop history from repeating itself is to recognize these things that go against one's own biases. And so instead of having a right-left bullshit, right, what happens is that you stop the left from mating with the authoritarian demon. And how does one do that? Well, what you do is what you do right here at Gabsmack, is we find people on both sides of the aisle who prefer freedom of speech before anything else. Okay? I put freedom of speech before my pro-choice, pro-immigration, pro-socialists, many different socialist type of policies that I would like. All of that comes way behind free speech. Free speech comes before anything. Well, I would consider myself a progressive, and I call them a regressive. But I wrote this on my tweet, I think 2 years ago. I said, progressive means aggressing in the right direction. I wrote that somewhere on my Twitter feed. So the point is, don't run into your corner and say, white people are dying out, which they are. They have been for a very long time. This is not something new. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it will live on in many other strains, right? Like here I am sitting with you, who's a few shades darker than most white people, only by a few, right? And I have no problem, people, I don't give a shit, whatever. Like if you are into free speech, that comes before anything. I don't care how many arms or faces or whatever. I'm not interested at all, really. Those who are interested on the authoritarian left side are the ones who are giving birth to the right. Today, we're the worst from left and right. No, you haven't seen the worst from the right. That's the beginning. The right hasn't militarized yet. The fake right. The fake right hasn't yet been born. These are just contractions. You haven't seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it when people will stand there in a certain area, the equivalent of Charlottesville in Lebanon, the hyper-Christian areas. And if you drive through and your cross is the wrong shape, or you look like you're not making the sign of the cross in the right way, you get a gun to your head. What are you doing? Why are you here? Give me your money. Give me your food. That's what will happen. That's what happened in the 40s in Germany, in the 30s and 40s. And that's what happened in Lebanon in the 80s. Well, once again, be careful when you say they are lumping in this. You've got to be very careful. You've got to find as many true liberals as you can who are free speech absolutists. And there are those out there, but when you say they or the left or Obama supporters, you will see, and MAGA makes things worse. And that's fine. I don't expect most people to listen to what I'm saying. Well, yes, the Confederate statue, I actually agree. I think that America needs to be reminded of its racist past so that it can become a better future. And once again, liberals make things worse. Well, here is a liberal talking to you, trying to make things better. So I think this is proof to all of my GoFundMe and Patreon people that this is exactly why it will get worse when you see exactly these comments. And they're not necessarily by people who are bad intentioned at all. I think a lot of people here are very well intentioned. Very well intentioned people. But once again, when your horizon is limited four-dimensionally, right, you then further exacerbate the problem. Right? When we see it with children at school, we say he started it, she started it, right? And we think they're being silly. But we as grown-ups do the same thing, but we do it in a way that looks a little bit more mature. We say they hate us, or liberals are cancer, or make America great again. All of these things that it doesn't matter what you think they mean. What matters in terms of the long-term solution is how to stop this from getting worse. And if saying MAGA makes things worse, then it makes things worse. Now, it did make things better for a while. Yeah, it'll take a bigger tragedy than 9/11. It will take a bigger tragedy than 9/11. And my dad, for years, when I grew up as a kid, my dad would laugh and say, America, they think they are so powerful the way they treat us in the Middle East. He said, they will die between the black and the white people. What would I do if I were president? I don't think the president can do much. I think it's the culture that needs to change, because the president is elected by the people, and the people are a manifestation of four-dimensional blowback. That's true. You can't erase the past. So it is a duty, it is an obligation by all of you here as Westerners, as Americans, not as just as Americans, but as those who are pro-West, who are liberal, like myself, who are liberal-minded. You might be on the right. I'm a progressive, but I'm a liberal first. I'm a free speech person first. People say society and government are distinct. I say government is a manifestation of society, and not of every person, because now someone's going to say to me, well, I don't support it, which is exactly what the fake left does, which is not all Muslims, It's the same thing. Yeah, you can listen to the past, but it's also listening to your own biases. Well, once again, you've got to think four-dimensionally. I don't look at Trump being elected. I look at the three-part series. You've got to look at Bush the second, Obama, and then Trump. You've got to look at them as one presidency. That's how I look at things. I don't look at my right arm as being separate from my left arm, right? Thank goodness, touch wood, right? What I see is a wave in four dimensions. And I've explained this many times to those of you who are new. I've explained this many times. I've even drawn it out where I've drawn the sine wave in four dimensions. And one propagates the other, just like light, right, has a multidimensional wave which runs orthogonal to itself. You have the magnetic function and the electric function, and they propagate each other to create the wave. So the point is that when Bush did what he did, and you can keep going further back, but when he did what he did, right, by destroying the country, he created Obama, okay? Or, you know, his administration, or that's it, not him personally, because I don't like to ascribe too much power. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to ascribe too much power to one particular president, because it's the culture itself. And it comes back from not, I guess, upholding the tenets of Western society. And you naturally create this sliding decadence, which actually collapses in a sinusoidal form. And what that means is that you have the creation of one maniac who then has the administration which completely polarizes the government or the society and forces the society to then retaliate in an overcorrective fashion. Okay, the overcorrective fashion was Obama. Now, Obama in itself creates an additional overcorrective measure, which is Trump. So that's why when I see this happen, I don't blame Trump, I don't blame Obama. This is a natural, exactly what you would expect by humans who don't see far enough into the future. Yeah, you got it. All right. So how does that stop? Well, you have to go back into the past. So I'm gonna finish soon because I've got to go to my mother's birthday party. But how does it stop? Right? It stops like this. Look back into Obama's administration, right? Look back into Obama's administration and think of all of the hatred that was growing, right? on the side of the right, which was growing for a long time. This is how the birther movement started. This is how all of these things started. Lilibel, right? You got to ask yourself, what could you have done back then, right? What could you have done back then? And you want to hear the answer? You're going to hate this. You're going to hate my answer. The answer is, hello, if the right did not retaliate and elect Trump, right? If the right did not retaliate and elect Trump, and instead united with the liberals on my side, on the left progressive side, those who support free speech before anything else, right? Then this polarization would not have increased. Now that is based upon all of the hundreds of hours that you guys have seen of my scopes. Okay, no, Obama was not a peacemaker. Obama was given a Nobel Peace Prize beforehand, and we have a saying in English, which is the man labeled an early riser gets up at noon. Now, if anyone, you can think about that saying and see what that means. Right. So when you're labeled a peacemaker, hello, my friend, lovely to see you, Rob. All right. So what do we take away from this? What we take away, number one, is that no one's going to learn from what I said. All that's going to happen is that my top followers are going to support me even more, and I'm going to get more followers. Some of those will turn into more GoFundMe and Patreon supporters. I think that will be one of the outcomes from this scope. The next outcome is that more people will be seeing the collapse of the West in the way that I'm seeing it. All right. The next thing that will happen is nothing. Everything else will remain the same. And there'll be more killing. And you'll notice that by when you watch the news, you will see most of the media and the propagandist institutions blame Trump. My brother's view as a Christian is that society collapsed when it lost Christianity at the end of the 19th century. And all of this is a mere consequence of losing the light of Christianity. That's my brother's view. And I'm sure I have simplified it, and I apologize to him because he's a highly intelligent human being, so I'm sure I've missed out a lot. And obviously I'm an atheist, I'm not a Christian, but I don't disagree with that to a very large degree. When you lose your value system, then this is exactly what happens. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. All right, that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to my GoFundMe and Patreon supporters. Without you, none of this would be happening. And I'm going to talk to some of you after I talk to my lawyer about investing in this book. I refer you, if you think morals can only come from metaphysics, first of all, I'm an atheist. Thank you very much, hugs. And yet, for me, morals are before anything. But if you go to Gabversity, I did a lecture on ethics, and I talk about all the different ways of which one can perceive the emergence of morality. So it's not necessarily that's the case. Thank you for listening. Always a pleasure to see you guys. And until next time, at Gabsmacked, remaining silent is not an option. So go gab yourself. Love to Mum.